evening, Warriors, and welcome in to another edition of the R&R Sports Report. Special thanks to the Hawaiian shirt-wearing kid for leading us into this episode on the radio. I love that band name. I don't know why. Maybe it's just my age.
I don't know. It had that kind of. I feel like going out and doing a little swaying with a little cocktail with an umbrella in it.
Robert and I were jamming out to it for sure. I am Randy Isbell, as always, with me, Robert Hagan. Robert, this is our last in-studio show of the school year. So if you're listening on KLCZ, make sure you follow us on Facebook and our YouTube page at the R&R Sports Report if you want to be able to catch us during the summer. We'll be doing it from home,
right?
And it's probably a good thing anyways because all of the sports are ending. All at the same time. So we'll have less local stuff to talk about. We'll be more baseball focused. We'll be more football focused. Probably talk some NBA and NHL playoffs, I guess.
Maybe we'll go out and hide by the river and do the show from the river. We get out on the boat.
I don't know if you're going to get me outside. I mean, it's hard enough to get me out to the baseball field. But I mean, talk about like near nature and stuff. We're getting a little crazy.
Well, why not? Why not? That'd be fun. No. Go sit out on the boat. We can get like Claffey to anchor down his boat or find us a little party barge and sit out on the river one night and do the show from the river. That would be an awesome show.
Listen, I went out and watched 2 innings of senior night over there at Clarkston for the Bantams, and I forgot how little of cover there is compared to when I'm doing PA for the Warriors, and just 2 innings, and I feel like I'm already going to get burnt.
Why? You know that from, our yearly thing.
We always had the canopy that we always had to worry about flying away. But
oh, yeah, I used to bring that canopy, and it's gotten ripped on the side. But, I mean, it's the same thing. But, we sit out in front of the bricks here at Harrisfield on Memorial Day. So it's no different. But it's no different.
We have another fun show for you today to end the school year. Hopefully, if you're a student and you're listening in, all of your finals are going well. I got one more to go tomorrow, and then I can put all the books away and not worry about them for a few months. So hopefully everything's going well for you as well. On today's show, of course, we got more LCSC stuff to talk about. Track and field goes to their conference tournament this weekend. Nationals are coming up in a couple weeks for both golf and track and field. LCSC had their Cascade Conference tournament this weekend here. Now they wait to see the other 9 teams in the World Series. We'll talk about that. We have our last guest in person on the year, Clayton Van Dyke from the cross country and track teams. Listing out all of his accomplishments this year took a page and a half. Yeah, so get ready for that. Again, we've said that guy's name.
Much.
This is episode 32. And it probably was, episode 15, 16 by the time we actually had local sports going. Mm-hmm. Since then, we have brought up his name each and every week. You got baseball and softball, high school sports getting into playoff time. Again, it was senior night over there in Clarkston.
Lewiston playing trying to get in for baseball, and softball doing really well. So we'll talk about that here shortly.
The NFL schedule gets revealed tomorrow. I'm a little disappointed we haven't had as many leaks as normal, but tomorrow will be full of them. We will get into our predictions for the Thursday night, Sunday night, and Monday night game. Yes, one Monday night game. I've seen many reports saying there's just one Monday night game for the first time since 2006 on week 1. We also predict who Baltimore will play, who the Jets will play, and who the Seahawks will play because we know our audience. We'll talk a little NBA. Westbrook, we talked about last week, did end up breaking the triple-double record. Unfortunately, we have to talk about AFL, even though Hawthorne is just forgotten that the season's still going on. Geelong, though, has been fantastic.
They're sitting in 4th.
Joel Damon had an interesting week. We'll talk about that. PBA playoffs will end this weekend. There's a fun NASCAR race. We'll get to that. And we will even talk about some horse racing.
Oh, Bob Baffert, man. He's getting in a little bit of heat. So it'll be interesting.
The only reason we'll ever talk about horse racing on this show, because it is a college channel and we don't really want to promote gambling, so we can't promote it that way. The only reason we'll talk about horse racing if there's a good controversy, and boy is there ever. But first, let's talk some Major League Baseball, and it's really disappointing that nothing happened last week.
I don't know what you were watching.
Nothing. There was just nothing. Excuse me. There was no hitting.
Yeah.
Last week.
Zero
hitting.
Any of the teams.
We had not only our third, but our fourth no-hitter of the season last week. Excuse me. It's the fourth and the fifth. But according to MLB, Madison Bumgarner's doesn't count because he got a no-hitter on the way the MLB wants their doubleheaders played, so he doesn't care about that. They just whatever. But the big one, John Means business for the Baltimore Orioles as he no-hits your Seattle Mariners.
He had to start that way?
Well, he was the first one of the week.
Right up against the Mariners. I mean, that's just harsh.
I mean, at least it wasn't a perfect game.
No, not at all.
12 strikeouts. And the crazy stat that you put on here for me, he faced 27 batters because obviously he had the third strike wild pitch, and then he got caught stealing, so he did face the minimum. But out of the 27 batters he faced, he started 26 of them out with a strike.
That was crazy to think about. And I had the opportunity to go back and watch a replay because that was an earlier, but by the time I finally got home. But just to see him work, and he was working both sides of the plate so well, I just don't know if he could have even been stopped if that game would have kept going and if it was a lot closer. Seriously, wow. I mean, you think about some of these perfect games and some of these no-hitters, you know, that some of them in earlier years would go past, you know, the 10th inning, 11th inning. I think Means could have easily kept going. I think he had a total of 113 pitches, so 79 of them for strikes. So, I mean, his control was just point on.
Absolutely. I listened to the CBS Fantasy Baseball podcast a lot during the season, and I forget which person on that show talks about him all the time, but there's one host on there that is all in on John Means before this as one of those big up-and-comer pitchers, and he showed it against Seattle. I mean, obviously, it's very cool to get a no-hitter. We're seeing them so much that we're kind of just immune to them anymore.
But you made the perfect point a couple of weeks ago when we talked about, I believe the second one was, how many of these have happened in the early parts of the month and then all of a sudden go? I mean, do we go back to the point of how far do we go back and use the COVID excuse of, well, they didn't have the preseason, they didn't do this, they only played 100 and so how many games last year, so these hitters aren't ready for them. But you know, this year seems to be a little bit more, you know, you had practices, you had that. It's just these pitchers have gotten to the point where they have so much control. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, tell me how many of them throw less than 91 miles an hour at any time?
Not many, unless you're over 35.
Yeah,
you're not throwing under 95.
You've got the fastball and usually one put-out pitch, a slider, or not a great sinker, but for the most part, it's just the command of that fastball. No, and we brought it up, and I'm going to go back to that same reference of there really isn't anybody that throws the ball quite as well as like we did, and we talked about Greg Maddux. I love Greg Maddux. The way he was working, he worked the ball in his prime, inside, outside. I mean, I think everything
there.
Well, I think everybody has gotten to the point. Well, I'm going to throw heat. You know, catch up, hit my ball,
but that's the thing. I'm not saying that your average MLB pitcher, obviously your average MLB pitcher is throwing far faster than what Greg Maddux can do. And I'm not saying that the average MLB pitcher is as accurate as Greg Maddux, but the elite pitchers are accurate levels near Greg Maddux, but throwing 5 miles an hour faster. Like there are some amazing pitchers out there that can paint the corners when they need to, and it's just been ridiculous. To the fact that again, John Means had a no-hitter, and he wasn't even the only one last week.
For the week, yeah, that's just
Wade Miley of the Cincinnati Reds. Then on Friday, threw a no-hitter against the Cleveland Indians, who have now been no-hit twice this year. That team is
go Tribe.
He does walk the one. He walks Cesar Hernandez in the 6th inning, and then they also had a double error by Nick Senzel in that inning. Still doesn't allow a run there. They win 3-0. The one walk, 8 strikeouts, and one more pitch than John Means needed. He had 114 pitches. So Again, 4 no-hitters already. I sent you the tweet. It was the fastest in MLB history since like 1917
Yeah,
or something
it's
crazy
crazy.
like that. And that leads me to my next point. So not only are pitchers getting faster, which is making them tougher to hit, and they are. I mean, the movement on some of these pitches is ridiculous. But the league-wide, and then you get the true 3 outcome hitters, which is basically 80% of the league anymore, where it's a home run, a strikeout, or a walk, which I think is killing the enjoyment of this game.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, I brought it up a couple weeks ago, and it's still the case. The league-wide batting average is the worst in the history of Major League Baseball, a history that goes back like 140 years. That's insane. The worst year before this year was 1968. Baseball players averaged 237. They're averaging 234. We always talk about the Mendoza line is under 200. You have to be over the Mendoza line or you're never going to play in the major leagues. Your average Major League Baseball player is averaging 234 right now. Before this started, I was listening to the Yankees and Rays game where the Yankees are up 3-1 and we're leading the hits 4-3.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's no hits in any of these games anymore. My question to you is, what will be done to fix this?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the pitchers have just become that much dominant. I mean, from my standpoint, it's the idea of, and you know me, as I've always enjoyed watching play small ball. I don't know what it is. It's just about seeing like NL style games, get on base, bunt the guy over, sacrifice, that kind of stuff, you know, and which goes against, right, and it goes totally against the stats and all that. But I think you make a huge point. You look at these guys that are batting and just pulling up the last 7 days, you have one team as a whole that batted over 300, and that was the Detroit Tigers. Batting 314. Seriously,
50, the worst team in baseball.
53 hits out of 169 at bats the last 7 days. But then you look, like you said, three teams below that Mendoza line, and one of them I had in my top my power rankings last week. Right? No, the Brewers.
Oh, Brewers then too.
Yeah. And it just blows me away how much the focus has become on that. I mean, these players think they've got to swing for the fence. If they miss, strike out, oh well. What happened to getting on base? That for me, that is where it lies.
Do you think Major League Baseball is disappointed in their decision to change baseballs after last year, where it felt like the balls were juiced?
I don't know. That one, I don't think so. But I mean, we're talking about a baseball that has made so many changes over the last 100 years. And I even saw a thing on when I was doing history that I want to say it was 2 weeks ago, and it didn't make the show, is that they had changed the diameter of the ball by like a half a centimeter, making it larger. I mean, so you look at all that. If you want to go back years and years, is it a control thing with the pitchers? Have they shrunk it back down? Is it the not using the same cowhide? And it goes back to the same thing too. Are the threads raised too high? Are they not high enough? Are they too dark? Are the batters not able to see them? Or are they too light? I mean, you could throw out any combination with that and wonder what's happening. I mean, I think the biggest thing that helped the batters years ago is when they threw up the batter's eye, back in, and that helped catch that ball out of, I mean, anybody'd have to have that, especially going against like Nolan Ryan back in the 70s, seeing that ball come at you. Well, any way you can get a dark sign or a dark piece of black material to catch that ball out quicker, I mean, it's going to help them. But I mean, you look at the evolution of that baseball, how much it has changed. I don't think it's been enough to change it. I think it's just these players have got the mentality now is I swing for the fence.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know if it's the base. Obviously, changing the baseball has knocked down how many home runs we're getting. We're still getting a ton because, as you said, that's what they're going for. But I think they're going to do something drastic if the average stays around where it's at.
Right.
But again, last year when it was the juiced baseball, you can blame COVID all you want, but it was probably a top or a bottom 15 league average. They batted 245 last year. 2019 was a 252, which is not that great either. But you know what happened after the 1968 season, after you had the lowest batting average in league history.
What wasn't that the year that they backed the pitcher's mound up?
Not backed it up, they lowered it.
Oh, that's right. They lowered it 6 inches, right?
I forget the diameters. If Eric's listening, he might be able to know those details. But yeah, so they lowered the mound to try to give the hitters a little bit more of an advantage. They're already right now trying out in some of their minor league games, moving the pitcher's mound back a foot.
Right.
I believe if the league average stays at league worst, that is going to be a major league rule next year. That'll be 61 and 6 inches.
Yeah, back it up a foot, and then
And Eric does say you were right. It was from 18 inches as well.
Yeah, I thought it was like a 6-inch change. So, but it's just maybe this is where I'm at with that. It seems like Major League Baseball just keeps making these rules and these changes for the batter. It's because everybody wants to watch the long ball. That's the thing. It all boils down to what am I going to get money in? Where are these owners going to make money? Where are they going to move it in? And how do they fill the stands? I mean, you and I messaged you the other day. I said, let's make a road trip and talk about, I looked at trying to get tickets. I mean, you would think these guys would open up ticket sales a little bit now that we're getting back to normal, but still I couldn't even look for tickets for when the Yankees come to Seattle in July.
It makes sense right now because teams obviously can only have so many.
Right.
And in a lot of states, you can only have a certain capacity. They don't want to sell those.
I've got it.
They don't want to sell out now and then nobody look, and then 2 weeks later, all of a sudden you can add another 10% capacity, but now nobody's looking. So now they're like, okay, we're going to sell them in packs, and then they'll go out like gangbusters. But just for reference, after they moved the mound up, or moved the mound down, they went from a 237 average in 1968 to 248 average in 1969 to a 254 average in 1970.
I have to laugh here as Eric makes his comment. If they do move the mound back, just be a foot. I understand. Put it in the middle. But for me, hey, Eric, no. Because I do some math problems with my 8th graders working with Pythagorean theorem. So I like the idea of it being off just a little bit. It makes the kids makes the kids think a little bit.
So why not this? If you obviously this would help the batters.
Right.
Because now, but I understand this rule change as pitchers are throwing it so much faster, the reaction time is so much less. So moving it back a foot or a foot and a half or wherever you want to go will give those batters about the same reaction time they used to have. But to counteract that, make home plate just a little bit bigger.
Well, I think they already do. But I would agree with that. Well, I do agree. But we're going to come to that time where that we're going to have just a camera behind it looking and telling us balls and strikes here pretty soon.
Right.
But I got one even better. And I really want to hear your opinion on it. And the same, and this goes for Eric too. And I love Eric chiming in with us, but here's a really big thought for you.
Yep.
What about we take out the idea of the major shift? You can shift in your area, but taking the whole left side of the diamond and you've got one guy left on the left side and then you got everybody on the right. I mean, that really has cut down a lot of these guys that do pull hit.
How about teach your hitters how to hit a ball to the other
side? Exactly. When I played softball, that's what I did. I'd rather hit a ball to right field and play it off the end and swing late But I mean,
being privileged enough to now being able to do some PA work for the Warriors,
Right.
watching a bit more Warriors this season than usually. Usually we watch a game or two during the season, then we watch the World Series.
Right.
Being able to see some more games. And I made this comment this weekend was, it is really weird that they don't shift in the NAIA. It's like people are taught how to hit until they get to the majors. And then they realize the only way you make the big money is to hit home runs.
mhm.
So they stop hitting. You would think if being a pull hitter was contagious or was, something you just could not fix, then you would see it in the high school level, in the college level. But it's at those levels you never see shifting because hitters can spray it all over the place. So it just
Right. I mean, that's the same thing. Here's the thing: why would you move Kyle Seager all the way over to the shortstop, or move him across the diamond and put him in that area when, if you just teach the guys, and these kids are, you look at some of the big programs, they're taught. I mean, LCSC, you're taught to hit opposite side. You spend time in the batting cages, hit to the other side.
that's not where you get the
Why?
big money, though.
I just
And Eric's right about having the two guys on each side of second base, and it'll be interesting to see if that works.
no, I'm okay.
But then you don't get the cool plays like Gleyber Torres this weekend, where he gets there's a base hit up the middle, just behind second base. He beats the throw to second, but because of the shift, nobody's covering third. So he runs the third. The catcher goes to cover third. So now no one's covering home, and he runs home.
I texted you that.
Scored from first
That was Thursday
on
night.
an infield singles.
That was Thursday night because I was bowling, and I texted you. I said, and I said, and I said, WTF? I'm like, what? How did he do that? Because I glanced up just as he's rounding third, and I'm like, there's nobody standing at the plate. What does the catcher do? And you look at the pitcher, and I can't remember who the pitcher was for that game, and he's just standing behind the.
Yeah,
they're not taught to play defense
that's either.
either.
The pitcher's fault at that point.
Yes, that was a pitcher because what should have happened, he should have went to behind third.
Yeah.
And the catcher should have stayed home.
It was just a weird play. But I agree. At first, I've loved the shift because I love the strategy of everything and the way people think, and I love the analytics of it. But I'm starting to lean the other way where, as a avid baseball fan, and there's somebody that is on MLB TV and watches almost every Yankees game, or if not watch, at least listen to the game. And I'll even flip through some other games if the Yankees aren't on. I watched the Astros and Angels game yesterday because the Yankees had a day off. Baseball is getting harder and harder to watch because there's so many strikeouts. And, I mean, people just trying to crush it every single time they're up. And so I would be fine now with the shifts getting neutered.
Right. So now with 4 no-hitters this year, over under 10.
5 no-hitters.
5 no-hitters.
We count Bumgarner.
Okay. Over under 11 no-hitters for the entire year.
I'll say under. Again, the batters will catch up. And obviously we're talking about the average being as low as it is now, but it is starting to creep up because batters are starting to get going. Pitchers always start out hotter than batters.
So why not report earlier? Why not? Why are the batters not reporting earlier to work on game fundamentals?
Because it's cool to say pitchers and catchers are reporting.
Well, I mean, keep them coming in a little bit earlier, but why not open it up and let those guys come at the same time? I mean, I don't know. It
is a very, very good question and something that maybe we'll see change.
For a person who loves watching the small side of it, trust me, I love watching the home run. I mean, we grew up watching Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire hit the ball a long way, watching it fly.
That home run.
Watching Bonds. Oh, yeah, and then watching Bonds hitting the ball out in McCovey Cove. I mean, that's what you and I grew up with. But knowing and being a purist of how baseball came up, it's so much nicer to watch that fundamental. I mean, but that's the thing. I mean, it's tough.
Just to show you how it's all changed, I'm in a couple fantasy baseball leagues on Yahoo. The only updates I ever get is if somebody hits a home run.
Right.
I mean, Kyle Tucker hit a home run. All my fantasies. There you go. But we also grew up not just with the long ball, but we grew up with the Cal Ripkens,
Right.
that knew how to play small ball.
That knew how to
The
play.
BGOs.
Mhm.
They knew what they were doing. A couple
Hint,
more.
hint. There's a trivia question tonight with BGO in it.
Everything. All right, a couple more notes to hit on MLB. Josh Hader became the fastest pitcher to record 400 strikeouts. That record will fall soon.
It'll go again.
It took him 234 and 2/3 innings. The previous record was Craig Kimbrell with 236. Again, with as many strikeouts, I could see Karinchak from Cleveland topping that if he can get to those. If he strikes out so many when he gets up there. Albert Pujols got released from the Angels. That was really surprising, but it shows stop signing people to 10-year deals.
I was gonna say how much is he still owed? It was like 30, and it wasn't a front-loaded contract. I think he still owed like close to 30. I could be wrong, but I mean, because they're. So why wouldn't you, if you're going to sign a long-term deal? And I mean, you look at it on the player side. This is the best way. Don't front load it. Don't front load it at all. Let's play for the end of it. So I get down to the final few years of my contract. Final few years of my contract, I'm going to get the bulk of my money because I know I'm going to sit down pretty soon. But I mean, do you blame the Angels because right now he wasn't playing at the level that he's used to playing, and they've got a ton of talent. You look at that team; they've got a huge amount of talent on that team. I don't think the Angels messed up. As much as I love watching Albert Pujols, even when he was a Cardinal, I mean, and I hate saying this, maybe next to Cal Ripken, he might be a good guy that you could look up to that was a workhorse.
Well, Albert Pujols is amazing. Obviously, he just got old, and as a first baseman, his body gets beat up, and he's not. I mean, he's a very big guy.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, obviously, the wear and tear is going to get to you. I'm kind of surprised it's happened now. Obviously, you're never going to be able to trade him. I mean, his productivity is way down, obviously, and he cannot go play for a National League team because he can't play first every day.
No, he has to stay in America.
And it makes sense for the Angels to do this just for the fact that they have Ohtani, who they'll want to play designated hitter when he's not pitching as much as they can, so they can still use his bat. So it makes sense. I'm a little surprised it's happening now and not before the season. I do believe that they probably wanted him to, retire, in the off season, and he just didn't. So they're like, okay, we'll just push it out. This is the last year of his contract, so it'll be interesting. Where do you think he goes?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, the same thing. I kind of get the same feeling, and maybe I'm wrong thinking this was the same thing that happened with Nelson Cruz. Minnesota signed him for one more year, and all he's doing is swinging the bat. But if you looked at the lineups, where would you put him? I mean, Chicago looks great, but they're playing unbelievable.
That is exactly
where
I would put him.
You think so?
Tony La Russa, his first manager in the big leagues, 100%.
And so then that's the thing. If that's the first, what kind of he could easily become a coach.
Yeah.
Right after. I mean, now that I think about it a little bit more, that might be the best.
I mean, obviously the White Sox have a lot of young talent. So if he comes in as that mentor and as a guy that can come and beat DH or be that bench player that can come in and hit in the 8th or 9th inning in a key situation, that would be great. Unfortunately, most teams anymore, even though they have 26 players on their roster instead of just 25, like to have way too many pitchers now, even though they have to pitch to 3. I mean, a lot of teams only have 3 batters on their bench.
Right.
Which is why Pujols kind of hinders a lot of aspects because you have to have a catcher. So then you only have 2. You usually like to have a speed guy or something.
And that's the thing. You think about that. Would you rather have him playing DH? I don't know if I want him coming off the bench because of the simple fact of his age. How much time this guy takes?
Baseball parks all have batting cages.
Right.
So you can go down there and warm up. And
so what do? You send him downstairs in the 4th and say, hey, guess what? Start swinging and getting loose.
Just get yourself ready to go.
Right. Good point.
Or he could be like Stanton every time. Again, as a Yankee fan, I watch their games all the time. Stanton they're allowing tablets again, and you see. I mean, obviously you can't have a live feed to it, so they're not stealing signs and stuff. But he's going back and watching at bats with the pitcher that's up and studying. And usually he has 2 or 3 guys around him, and he's there teaching. And I think Pujols could be fantastic about that. Some weird injury news. Jacob deGrom, who was injured and missed a start, decided to pitch this weekend. Now his side was hurting. It was his back before. It's not the same spot. No damage is being shown, but he will be put on the IL. Brian Hayes has been moved to the 60-day IL. He's going to be such a great talent. Just unlucky here to start his career. And Fernando Tatis, who we thought came back too early, and then he shut us up really quick, as he's been playing pretty well. He tests positive for COVID, so he gets put on the COVID list IL, and Jurickson Profar and Jorge Mateo both also get added to that COVID list due to the MLB close contact rules. Jared Kelenic, which I've learned watching the Yankee game, it's not Kelenic, it's Kelenic. Jared Kelenic will be joining the Seattle Mariners on Thursday. As a Mariner fan, are you excited?
I am, but I still didn't pick him for being my rookie of the year. I mean, because I figured he was going to play probably the first 2 months.
Once they got past that thing where they can keep him the extra year and all the other stupid MLB rules that still exist.
I'm excited to see what he can do, but we've had kind of a rough few games, but we play. What do we get? We get the Dodgers for 2 games,
Might
and
be
then
the best time to get them.
Yeah,
right now.
I mean, get him in there, and then I think we play Cleveland. So I mean, it might be a great time to get him in there and get seeing some at bats. I mean, that kid, I think they can play him just about anywhere. Whether or not he goes and plays first for a little bit for Evan White, or he's out giving Mitch Haniger a day off, or even Lewis getting started back up. I mean, he hasn't looked 100% getting back going, and I'm excited to see what and where they put him, because, I mean, do you give Kyle Seager a day off? Kyle's been pretty good at the plate all year long, so it'll be interesting to see how the management play him and what they're going to do with him.
Yeah, everyone that ranks prospects has Kelenic in the top 5.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be very exciting to see him play. And, I mean, obviously I like to rag on the Mariners just because it's fun to do. But I do hope he has a great start and he has a great career. Because then the Mariners will trade him to the Yankees.
I was going to say, you know what they'll do. Then Devoto will send him somewhere.
Yep, it'd be great. News that came out today that was kind of surprising. The Athletics are starting to look at relocating out of Oakland. They've been in Oakland since 1968. Obviously, they've been wanting a new stadium forever. That stadium looks terrible.
Oh, it does.
I mean, obviously, it was made for football and baseball, and now football is gone. And then it has the biggest foul ball area ever.
Like miles and miles and miles of it.
Any foul ball can still get caught. But the surprising news is Major League Baseball is insisting that they look elsewhere now. MLB Baseball wants them to move.
I mean, it gets them out of the immediate area. So, I mean, it's almost like the idea of, okay, let's spread out our product. You've got 2 teams right there in the Bay Area. Okay, that's kind of what I'm thinking maybe they're trying to do. Spread them out a little bit,
Well, they just want to go to a city that's going to pay for a new stadium.
Right. And that's the thing.
That'll bring in fans. Yeah. Which is disappointing because, again, Oakland has been a very good team.
And a good point is because, my folks and I were talking about this on Saturday night. We were talking the idea of how much money even the people of Seattle are still paying on stuff with the Kingdom. I mean, the Kingdom, there was, I want to say we were talking about, it was like $90 million still, when they demolished it, was still owed on that. I mean, think about how that affects some of these other, how this affects some of these people that live around the area that's not in the immediate area. What about those that live in Tacoma? What about those that live around in that area, but they're still in the same county? Guess what? You're paying for this place. I mean,
And
how that goes against it.
Derek just posted on our Facebook page. Manfred said that Oakland and Tampa Bay are hindrances to expansion. Testing other markets or getting new stadiums would help speed that along.
So the big one I was hearing when I saw this was Las Vegas.
Yes.
How much more can we keep putting into? And it have to be in the county. I would think, because even the Raiders are
not going to go
in the county.
They're
They're
not going to
not in the
follow
line.
the Raiders into that new stadium.
No, they'll have to have their own place. And you look, and that was one thing I noticed when we drove down to Vegas last year for Nationals, or year before last when we went to Nationals. Even the racetrack in there is not very big. It doesn't seem big, but then you go and drive by this brand new stadium in Las Vegas, and it's just like, holy Moses! But who are you
next week?
Who are you going to get to pay for this? I mean, when do the owners and the players start picking up a little bit of this? I mean, and not the taxpayers. I mean, some of the tickets, like when I was looking at ticket prices for you and I just to go over to the Mariners Yankees game, I mean, some of them were starting $70-$75 if we wanted to sit, right behind, which I would love to sit right behind home plate at I was going to say Safeco at T-Mobile, but I mean, you look at different places, and you and I have been to that place. I mean, there really isn't a bad seat in there, but what justifies these tickets and how much they keep gouging the regular guy?
$7 burgers and the $10 beers.
Or you splurge and have the $20 sushi plate, which ugh. But I mean, it's you're exactly right. I mean, we went with Peter when we went over to Quest, and we went Century Field. Hey, look, they filled up my beer, and he showed us how that beer went. Well, $9 beer just went on the ground because of he didn't remember that they filled it from the bottom.
They fill it in this little hole right here. Watch.
Yeah, I mean, when are they going to start understanding you can't keep price gouging the American people? I mean,
when people stop filling the seats.
Yeah, I guess.
Again, we're talking about how expensive these beers are when we go to a Seattle Seahawks game. Yet they sell out every year.
Yeah,
tickets are fine. Obviously, it's not showing it because of all the COVID restrictions and stuff right now. But even the Rays, who have a terrible attendance, still are happy with the attendance they're getting, to the point where other than they want to move, but I'm sure they're still pulling somewhat of a profit. They're not putting it into the team, but
that's the thing. I mean, when do you start putting money into that place? Because
they want a brand new stadium,
right? Because
they think it'll bring in even more money.
I've driven by. I drove by years ago. I want to say it was like 2011 or 12 that I was in the San Diego or the Oakland area, and we drove by the Coliseum or there at Oakland Stadium, and it was just the outside looked a little rough. And we talked about that the other night. The same idea of how the Kingdom looked. Maybe on certain sides of it didn't look bad, but when you've got pieces falling from and games getting canceled, I mean, something's got to happen.
Where do you think they go?
As much as I hate to see them go to Vegas, just because I'd like to see it go someplace else. I would rather see a product spread out instead of cramming everything all in the same area, putting another team in Seattle or putting another team maybe in Vancouver just over the border or whatever. But that would be hard to do with COVID right now. But what about putting a team in Omaha area? What about putting a team in a part of the country that we can expand and put around, bring jobs in for certain places? And I hate saying it, but put a team in Montana. Yeah, there's an opportunity
there.
There's an opportunity, but here's the thing: there's an opportunity to play spring ball in the winter. But spread things out, get people around different places. That could cause more jobs in an area like that.
Montana just doesn't.
But you know what I'm saying. I mean,
to do any of that.
Well,
obviously Vegas feels like a front runner. Portland would be interesting. I like your Vancouver idea. Anything that gives us something closer,
right,
to be able to actually go to, since all we have really is the Mariners that are within a day's drive. Colorado Rockies are 15 hours away or
Yeah.
whatever it is. So that would be nice. I really like your Nebraska idea.
Spread it out.
I mean, obviously Nebraska's big into baseball. You get the College World Series there. So yeah, I mean, there's plenty of places that want baseball.
Well, I mean, even, and hear me out with this one, even New Orleans. New Orleans had the Zephyrs for a lot of years, and now that team bounced around, and we all know how AAA works in the minor leagues. You lose your affiliate with this one this year, you pick it up with another one. And when I was down there, I got to go see him, and I got to see Fernando Tatis Sr. I got to see Sr. on a rehab start along with Sandy Alomar playing for that ball club, and it was great. But you were right there, and the place was packed. In New Orleans, it was packed, but there's no team there now. I mean, that would be even an interesting place to put it.
Yeah, lots of places. It'd be really interesting to see what happens with the Athletics. We'll keep you up to date for sure. It's now time, though, to get into our power rankings. And I just have to say, I don't know how yours are, Robert, but mine are completely different. Out of my top 5, there's only one team that stayed in that top 5. But you go right ahead.
I kept 3 in my top, but I brought in a couple new ones. The only reason, Boston has stayed playing quite good. They haven't no major hiccups, anything like that. I keep them in the top. The top 3 just changed orders for me. I put San Francisco up top. I like what they're doing. They're out in front. Who would have figured they'd be the team over the Dodgers and over the Padres? I keep Boston at number 2. The pitching staff is just good. The way they're playing, I don't think it stays very long. But like we've talked, until the end of May, I think, it's going to be interchangeable a lot. San Diego, same reason. They've been playing quite well. Tatis is going to prove us now. It'll be interesting what happens the next 10 days with that one. I'm going to move up the quiet team that has just been doing, what are they, 8-2 over the last 10, and that's St. Louis. St. Louis has just looked really well. And then Chicago. And that was kind of the White Sox. We kind of played. That was our sleeper. What
my sleeper? Don't be stealing my
what Tony La Russa was going to do for that ball club? Well, look at the way they're playing. They're leading their division right now. So, I think St. Louis is the biggest one. They just have been quiet the entire time, making their push. And then Milwaukee has looked terrible. They're below 200 this last weekend. You talked about the Mendoza line, so Milwaukee falls out for me. I had them in the top.
Dodgers winning only 2 of their last 10 too.
And now they get to face the Mariners.
We were all excited to see Kansas City really get going. They've now lost 8 straight. So again, everyone freaking out over a week or 2 of baseball. That's why they play 162 of these things.
Folks, we're only 5 weeks in.
And even now,
hold on.
Here's our top 5 for now. It will change again next
week.
For me, my 5th ranked team is the same as yours, the Chicago White Sox. Again, that was I picked the Yankees to make the World Series because I'm a Yankee fan, but if it's not the Yankees, I think it will be the White Sox. A lot of great young talent. It is showing La Russa has something going there. Can they keep it going? Possibly. Mercedes is starting to slow down. Andrew Vaughn, though, is starting to pick things back up. So hit a home run, but it's looking really good. Oakland Athletics, I moved back up into my top 5 into 4th. The thing that worries me is the run differential still in the negatives right now. It's only -10, but they're not dominating a lot of teams, and actually their expected win-loss record is 17-19. But you know what? If you're finding ways to win games you're not supposed to early, it's going to mean a lot later on when you figure things out. So they are my 4th place team. I hate to do it, but I agree with you. The Boston Red Sox continue to not want to fall off the cliff like I've been waiting.
I think it happened, but when? That's the thing.
Just a 3-game lead. They have so many veterans on that team that even with all the COVID issues that happened last year and into this year, they have that veteran leadership to lean on right now. Can they stay healthy? That is the bigger question. San Francisco Giants, again, are the only team that were in my top 5 last week that I kept in my top 5 this week. I have them at number 2. The big stat to me is their record at home. They are 14-4 at home.
That's nice.
They are a pitching team in a pitching ballpark, and it is showing as have a 2.5 game league in the NL West, where we thought it was all Padres and all Dodgers.
Mm-hmm. And we're getting proved wrong right away. So.
And my number one team is that sleeper team you were talking about with the St. Louis Cardinals, winning 8 of their last 10, winning 3 in a row. Again, veteran teams right now starting to get things figured out, and it's looking good. So they are my number one team. Next week it will all be different. But for now.
And they picked up a win today too. Another win.
Speaking of, here is your Major League Baseball scoreboard, the key game of the day. Eric's listening, so I have to do it.
For you.
The Yankees have just been unable to beat the Rays, and now that I've said that, they'll probably blow it in the bottom of the ninth. The top of the ninth inning, Yankees up 3-1 over the Rays. Pirates over the Reds 7-2 going into the bottom of the ninth. Actually, that game just finished. So Pirates beat the Reds 7-2. Phillies over the Nationals 3-2 in the bottom of the seventh. Tigers crushing the Royals, who just, again, are really on downslide. Tigers up 7-0 in the bottom of the seventh. Orioles, who continue to hang around the 500 mark, which has been surprising to me, beating the Mets 2-0 in the bottom of the eighth. Athletics beating the Red Sox 3-2 in the bottom of the eighth. That's a fantastic series early on. Blue Jays and Braves tied at 3, but the Blue Jays have the bases loaded in the top of the eighth, nobody out. Brewers over the Cardinals 1-0 in the top of the seventh. Astros ahead of the Angels 1-0 in the top of the seventh. Twins and White Sox in another fun one. Twins have, will they ever figure it out? But White Sox and Twins tied at 3 in the fifth. Rockies ahead of the Padres 1-0 in the fourth. Marlins and Diamondbacks just got started, and as you said earlier, Mariners and Dodgers start here in about 30 minutes.
Kikuchi takes on Walker Buehler tonight. So,
and finish so far, Giants beat the Rangers in a day game 4-2, and the Indians, as you said, beat the Cubs 3-2. And there is your MLB scoreboard.
Who would have figured the Indians are 19-14 on the year too? That
I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah. Don't want to talk any more about it, huh? All right, fine.
All right, let's get on to some LCSC sports. Again, this segment's getting smaller and smaller as everything finishes up. But LC did win the Cascade Conference Tournament, which was not that surprising.
No.
What was surprising was our first game against Orion Tech, who, to be fair, played a 13-inning game against Corbin 30 minutes before, which really screwed up the schedule on Saturday. My dad came to watch the first LC game, and I had to wait an hour and a half before he finally got to watch his LC game. And then the Warriors scored 9 runs in the third, and he went home. But the Warriors beat Oregon Tech 21-1 in their first game, then beat Corbin 4-1 to lock up a 2-0 record on Saturday, eliminating Oregon Tech and guaranteeing Corbin will be the representative for the Cascade Conference since LC has the automatic bid to the World Series. So Corbin will be allowed to play in the opening rounds. But then they do beat Corbin 6-1 on Sunday. And as we've said a couple times, this is the last year for LC to get that automatic qualifying bid to the World Series.
How do you feel about that?
I think it's fair.
I do too.
It'll be real. We talked about it this weekend. Obviously, I want them to make it every year, and it's really fun to come watch the Warriors during World Series time. It'll be weird this year with the attendance restrictions, but it is always packed in there as much as they can, and especially when you get a game that goes a little bit longer. Some of these other games get the residual effects, and the crowd is fantastic. I am curious, the first year the Warriors don't make it, what the attendance will be like.
And that could be as early as next year, but with this program and how they're going, I don't see it happening for a little bit, but who knows? I mean,
With the way they're hitting right now, it's just ridiculous. Speaking of hitting, by the way, the Warriors do finish the season 41-4. So, but the thing is, even finishing 41-4 next year, that just means you get into an opening round where it'll be a 5-team set and only one of those teams move on. So you can be 45-0 and struggle in the opening round. You still will make the World Series. There's no guaranteed spots into the World Series anymore. So it'll be really, really interesting to see how all that goes. But Brock Efon, who is hopefully going to make the show today, had a scheduling conflicts. And we were hoping on last week, but never saw the text from Alicia. Did not care. Maybe it's just we have to say we want you on the show. And you do great. But he won the Player of the Week for the 5th time. by going 9 for 13 over the weekend, including 5 for 5 in the title game. Just that guy's been insane.
I want to know what that guy eats. I mean, what's in his Wheaties in the morning? I mean, what else are you putting in there? I mean,
for sure.
How do you build him? I mean, what is he? What do we figure? 6'3", 2, I think like 260 or 70. I mean,
fast.
big, and he's a big boy and he can run. I mean, he had stolen bases, so anything's possible.
Trent Sellers wins pitcher of the week as he was the winning pitcher in the title game because 5 innings, strikes out 6, only gives up 2 hits, no runs allowed. And so now they just wait to see who the other 9 teams are. So we will get into that. As our guest just walked in, so perfect time for this track and field. Had a small group come to Nampa, Idaho to compete in the Candace Lantern's qualifier and multi, and the last chance to compete for the Cascade Conference Championships. Our guest here, Clayton Van Dyke, was part of the 4x800 relay team who ended up winning the event. Felt just short of qualifying for nationals, but we'll get into that here in just a minute. Matthew Roma was busy as he finished 3rd in the 400 meters, 4th in the 100 meters, also setting a personal record with an 11.68 and 6th place in the hammer throw. Nick Bertling won the 200 meters, and Riley Overton had a PB in the discus as she threw for 31 meters, 0.16, which qualified her for the Cascade Conference Championships, which will be this Friday and Saturday in the Grand Oregon. And again, opening rounds for the NAIA World Series will be between May 17th and 20th, with the selection show on May 13th at 2 p.m. Pacific.
Yeah, I'm just excited. As much as we have talked LCSC sports a lot, and we've done a ton of it, how much the track and field team has come up on a weekly basis.
Well, it helps that you have guys like Clayton that is on the cross-country team and the indoor track team and the outdoor track team. And when I go pick up my daughter, sometimes I see him running on Brighton. This guy just runs everywhere. Our guest, Clayton Van Dyke, how's it going?
Oh, it's good. It's nice to be here. I'm excited.
Well, let's talk a little bit about majors really quick. We'll talk to all the schooling stuff first. Majoring in graphic communication.
Yeah.
What led you down that direction?
When I was younger, I got into drawing when I was young, and so as I went through high school, I kind of wanted to do something that was creative. And when I got to college, I found out there's a degree for graphic design, and when I transferred up here from College of Southern Idaho, I got in the graphic communications program, and I actually just got a job recently working at Dynamic Designs, which is really cool. So
that's going to be awesome. So whereabouts are you? Let's talk a little bit. You did say that you came from Southern. Where were you high school?
In high school. In high school, actually, I'm from Utah, Vernal, Utah. I graduated high school there, and then ended up moving up to Twin Falls, Idaho for my junior college, and then moved up here, transferred on a scholarship.
So what's your favorite part about like the track team, or is it just you just grew up running everywhere and just got used to it, or?
I kind of started at the beginning of high school. My middle school had a cross country race at the end of the year. They just kind of made everybody do it. Ended up winning my 8th grade year, and the coach was like, "Hey, you should do this. I think you'd be pretty good at it." And I just, kind of went into it. And since my freshman year of high school, I've been running. And found I wanted to do it in college, and just kept doing it in college. And, the more miles I was putting in, the better I was getting. And, I get to this point now, and I just find myself winning races.
So we had Cole Olson on earlier this year, and obviously does all of the other events that you do as well, and doing the cross country and the indoor track and the outdoor track. How has this season been compared to your other seasons, where everything kind of got thrown into one couple months?
Yeah, it's crazy because normally we have kind of some time in between, and cross country is usually in the fall, which is like the biggest change. And so having to do like a cross country season, and then in the middle of that cross country season, we had a very, very short indoor season where we only had one opportunity to qualify, and then we're back to cross country. Mm-hmm. And as soon as cross country was over, we had meets every weekend afterwards, leading up until this point. It's been difficult, but I've enjoyed it. I mean, we get to be racing again, which we didn't have last year. So,
It's huge to see that kind of change. And so you look, what's probably your favorite event? I mean, out
That's
of
a tough
everything
one.
you do, I mean, cross country, you do the indoor, the outdoor.
I'd
What is
say
probably your favorite?
I'd say probably the 800. Actually, currently this year, I'm undefeated right now in the 800. And I'd like to keep that streak going through conference, of course, and hopefully nationals. A year and a half ago, I was a national runner-up in the indoor 800. So I'd like to get to a point where I can actually get that national title. And I think I just have a lot of fun with it. It's only 2 laps around the track, and it's just kind of a sprint. So.
Right. And we talked a little bit about that with the group last time. Do you prefer running outside or do you prefer running inside? I mean, we understand we learned a little bit there a couple of weeks ago. We talked about the idea of the bankings and stuff. Do you prefer to be inside or do you prefer to be outside?
I think when I first started college, I was not a fan of the indoor track. I think as I've progressed, when you're outside, there's like weather conditions. You've got wind, you've got rain. It's hot, it could be cold. It's all kinds of things. But indoor, it's controlled. And so I think I found, the faster I'm getting, the more competitive I get. I like to be able to be in a controlled situation. And I think I enjoy running those indoor races just a little bit more. I like outdoor, but I really think that I found kind of a special spot, in indoor, and I find kind of some comfortability there.
So going back to the longer distance races and like the cross country stuff, what is your racing style? Do you like to try to lead the pack and set the pace, or do you like to sit back and wait and know that you're going to have that extra gear at the end, or you just ignore everyone else and just run your race? How does that work?
So I'm kind of like, I would consider myself kind of a silent hunter. I just kind of, sit in the crowd a little bit until I make a position to the end where I can, at nationals, when we took third a couple of years ago, I pretty much sat in around like a 16th to 20th position, pretty much the entire race. And in the last 200 meters, I ended up taking 5 spots off of that. And, it's 11th. And I was right with my teammate with 200 meters to go. And Chase Barrow, he was an All-American a couple of years ago. And so when we were together right at the 200, I ended up putting 5 places between me and him. And I think that's just how I run. And my strength's definitely, where the 800 is. And so I'd like to be able to conserve some of that. So when I get to that, I hardly ever lose in a final kick.
So talking about your equipment and your practice and all that, are there different shoes or anything, different things you tape? I know a lot of us tape differently, for bowling, that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. What kind of equipment are you using? Something different for inside track, indoor shoes? Or are they the same? That was one thing I meant to ask Cole when he was the last time.
See, and it's interesting because Cole and I are very different. So as far as training goes, I have 4 pairs of trainers, and that's just your normal shoe that you do your warm-ups in or your longer runs in. I have about 4 of those that I rotate through every single day, and then workouts. It depends on the workout. If we're up at the cross-country course, I have a pair of spikes. They have little needles, spikes at the bottom of them. So if we're running repeats around, I have those. But if we're running on the track, or if we're running on the levees, I have flats, which is just like a small, thin shoe. And then outdoor track, actually, and indoor track, I use the same thing for racing. Nike just released these really cool new Victory Elite spikes that have like the carbon fiber plate and an air bubble in them, which is really cool. And so it's been cool to kind of experience new technology that they've had with track spikes, because I feel it's been pretty similar for a long time.
So I talked about here last week, you guys ended up winning the 800, the 4x800 meter race, but just missed out on qualifying for nationals. How short were you?
I think it was like we were like 5 seconds off. I think so, and that's just a little over a second per person. And 5 seconds seems kind of like a long time, but when you get that close, we had 3 freshmen in that group, and so me being kind of the only senior, I think it was there's a lot of inexperience, and so we weren't exactly sure what we were going to be able to pull off. We ended up breaking 11 seconds off of the time we ran before, which was good to see them improve. And I think for next year, I think the freshmen that we have, when they gain a little more experience, that'll definitely be something we can qualify for in the future.
It said in the article that Coach said that all of you were coming back. Are you coming back?
Yes, actually I am. So with my, I still have like a cross country season, an indoor track season, and an outdoor track season. And I'm planning on getting a minor in structural and packaging design. So kind of worked out. So I'm just going to take another full year and focus on running.
So you were bringing up how you're excited to see the freshmen take that step forward as a senior and now coming back for another year. Have you kind of taken on that leadership role on the team? Or?
Yeah, I think so. I think it kind of depends. Cole's kind of more the cross guy, and I'm kind of like the track guy. I think the freshmen, I think, look up to me in that track aspect, and I like to, at least motivate them. And so I think recently our coach just had us do these team comments, and we just pick out people on the team and, give them either advice or tell them something we like about them. And part of my comments that I gave them is just advice, because I want them to get better and I want to do better as a team in the future.
So how do you challenge yourself then? In that same night, do you have a daily goal? Do you have a weekly goal? I mean, building yourself up. You're building up the other team. How do you build yourself up that way?
I really, really like numbers. I like records. I want to have my name on those record boards, and hopefully for a long time. And every time I get up in the morning, we go to practice, I walk by that record board. I have a paper on my door. Every time I walk out, I write the time that I want to run. And every single day, I just make sure that I'm focused on what I want to do.
And so you're keeping track every time you go out and do your runs?
Exactly, yeah. So every single week, our coach has like set minutes for us. And so say my longest run was 1 hour and 52 minutes, which was about like a 17-mile run. And that's pretty standard for our weekends.
Robert, have you run 17 miles in your life?
We'll not talk about that. I'm still afraid of having to play against Guy Fong here pretty soon. That's true. That's just crazy.
So speaking of records, again, just looking through your profile, the list is just ridiculous. We've reported on this before, but how did it feel being the USTF CCA West Region Track Athlete of the Year?
It was really cool. My freshman year, I had a teammate that actually got one of those awards, and it was like super, super cool, and to finally get something like that and see that my hard work is being recognized. Especially with this season being as weird as it was. I think it's super cool. Like, I was kind of surprised. I only had one meet to qualify for nationals, and that single meet I ended up winning all three of my races, and I think that just kind of shows that hard work that I've been putting in to deserve something like that.
Is that the Polar Vortex Classic?
Yes.
Yeah, where he wins the 800, the 1,000, and the mile. Just a ho-hum day.
So before we get into some of the other questions we got here, I want to dive really quick back in. Everything has been about running. Is that the only sport you did while you were in high school? Coming from the area, and I'm not too familiar with the area where you were at there in Utah, but what was some of the other sports, or did you do other sports than running?
Yeah, I did. I think I kind of, throughout elementary school, middle school, I kind of experimented. I played, quite a bit of basketball, a little bit of soccer. I did some football, so I kind of did everything. But I didn't really feel like my place was in those sports. I kind of wanted to find something like I want to be the best, it's like I want to be the best at what I do. So when I found running, I was like, I got to go all in running. And since high school, it's been, kind of my thing. And track, I've kind of bounced between events. Actually, in high school, I spent a lot of time doing long jump in the 400, which is a lot different than running a 5K or a mile race. So once I got to my senior year, I decided to kind of get the 800. I ended up running the 800 for the first time my senior year, qualified for state. And that's really what carried me to college and wanted to continue running in college was the 800. It's just track has been my life for the past, 7 years at this point.
Has there been a event that coaches asked you to do that you said no?
I'm not much of a 5K guy. I like, when I get on a track, when you have to run 12 and a half laps, that's like, it feels like forever on a cross country course, and you got things to look at, and it's kind of scenic, it's not so bad. But on a track, I am not a 5K guy. I tried, I just don't seem to do as well in those longer events, and I think there's no thrill to me. I enjoy it, but it's just not as fun. And as far as saying no, most of the time we don't really have a choice. Coach is like, you get on the track and you're running this, and put a smile on your face and grit through it. So,
All right, last question that I have for you, and it's very, very important. What's the music choice when you're doing practice? When you're out there just running?
I used to listen to music a lot when I was younger, when I first kind of started running. And as I've kind of gotten, older and more focused on running, I haven't really, listened to music too much, recently in my training. And someone told me this quote once and about running, and I actually I took it to heart. And he said that instead of listening to music while you run, listen to your heartbeat, focus on your breathing, And so I think once I started running, you kind of get this zone. And so, music or the outside world, people, even when you're racing, everything around you almost doesn't exist. So
Do you ever think about maybe running a marathon or doing something like that, going to Boston or running something like that? Or did you participate in virtual Bloomsday this year?
So I would like to at some point in my life. I've run a half marathon before. I've never really trained for a marathon. That's a whole different ball game, and I think that might be something that I want to continue after college. I'd like to run pro. I don't know about like crazy pro athlete on an elite team or whatever, but I'd like to continue running after college, and I'm probably going to focus on the short stuff. Like I said, like cross country and the 5K. I like them, but it's just I don't think that's where my strength is. So I kind of want to focus on running the 800 and the metric mile, which is the 1500, is what they run at the Olympic Games and stuff. So once I graduate college, pretty much all my focus is going to be on those two events. And at some point down the road, when I'm 30 or 40 years old, and I just want to continue running just for fun, I might do some fun half marathons and marathons and get into that type of one.
Cool. All right, so let's play some game here. We're going to ask you a few rapid fire questions and just let us know what you think. And first one, I'm going to ask you, if you had to emulate your game, or even your running style, who would that be?
If I had to emulate my running style,
yeah,
man, I would say I have a very, very aggressive and silent running style. Kind of wait for that kill moment when I'm just ready to like attack. Oh, that's a tough one. It's not really game character, but you think the Black Panther, he just kind of, he's like, hiding in the darkness. And then once he finds his moment to strike, then it's like almost game over kind of thing. If that makes sense. That's kind of where I would.
I like that. I think that's the best answer we've had on all of them. All right. Favorite sports team. It doesn't have to be, do you follow any other sports? We did talk, you played a little basketball. Who's your favorite sports team?
Well, I grew up in Utah. I've been a fan of the Jazz for a long time. I think that, of all the sports teams that I follow, that's one I follow. My dad is really into the Jazz. We've gone to a couple games and stuff. And so I think just growing up, I spent probably the most time watching the Jazz. I follow a couple running teams, but I would say the Jazz.
Jazz having a good year.
Yeah, they are. They are.
What's your favorite sports movie?
Favorite sports movie? It's gotta be Prefontaine. There's a classic Prefontaine movie, and it's just it's one of those movies that when you watch it, I just get excited about running. And I've watched quite a few sports movies, but there's just something about having it connected to the sport that I love so much that I enjoy.
We've asked our last 10, 15 guests that question. I have a list of movies I have to go back and watch now.
Oh yeah,
I've never heard of, including this.
Oh, it's a fan. Even if you don't like running, it's a fantastic story. I mean, Prefontaine was kind of he broke into a new era of running that pushed everybody to just get faster over the past couple of decades.
So we have a question from Alicia on our Facebook page. She wants me to ask you about your graphic skills.
Oh, what are
you better at, running or graphics?
Oh man, that's a tough one. I think honestly, I would probably say talent-wise, I would consider myself a better graphic artist. I kind of fell into it in college, and I've done really well, and people just always kind of like my stuff. I feel like I've kind of had to work harder as a runner, not physically or anything like that. I spent so much time running, and so I just recently I got a job. I submitted my application, and 6 days later I had the job. So it's just
have you done anything for the college?
I have, yeah, no. So actually, I interned for Alicia. I do graphic stuff at the college.
I kind of figured. I don't think Alicia's ever told me you were an intern, but I kind of figured because every time I asked to have you on the show, she answered me in a minute. It's like she just turned over and asked you.
Exactly. Yeah. So I actually, for the World Series, NAI World Series, I designed the T-shirt this year for the NAI World Series. So, watch out for that. I think that's pretty cool.
Excited for that one. I'm ready to get one. All right. And Randy loves asking this one. A favorite snack food? What's your go-to
Favorite
snack
food? It's funny, and I feel like this happens a lot, but I'm lactose intolerant, but I absolutely love ice cream. Absolutely love ice cream. And the cookie dough, I've tried all the kinds of cookie dough ice cream in the world. As a runner, I'm supposed to kind of watch my, my diet a little bit, but I make, or root beer float. Those two, that's kind of hard to beat those.
All right. So who's your favorite teacher here at LC?
My favorite teacher. That's a tough one. I think probably this past semester, I've been Samantha Coulter. She's kind of with the graphic stuff. I think she really kind of pushed me into the world of graphic design a little more. She actually is the one who told me about the job. And so once she kind of told me about it, she's like, I think you'd be a really good fit. And, after she sent me that email, like it was only 6 days later. So I think she's just been a really good driving force for me to be better, in like my future.
All right. How about biggest fear?
Biggest fear. I think something that, one goal in life that I have is to always like be happy, and it's like 20 years from now, I think my biggest fear is like whether I'm going to be happy or not, because everything I do because I enjoy it. I'm not too worried about money. I want to focus on myself, and so I think probably just not being happy in the future. I think that scares, the crap out of me.
Well, you keep that mindset, I think it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Just keep enjoying what you're doing, and I think that'll be great.
All right. So now we're going to throw a word at you. So the word association, first 1 or 2 words with each one. And how about Carter Gordon?
Dang, he's fast. Yeah, there's a couple moments in practice. He just he's right on my, he's got some speed. I think he's got some strength, that he's got to work on, but man, that kid's fast. He really is.
How about Connor Main?
Oh, he is a grinder. I have never seen this guy does. If you think my runs are crazy, this guy does 2.5 hour long runs that are 24 miles. Crazy dude.
Cooper Carlson.
He's kind of a goof. I really like him. He is, it's kind of when he got here, it was kind of hard. I wasn't sure exactly, where he was going to be. But this past season, he's really, shown up and showed a lot. He was on that 4x8, and I think he really, really he's a good kid. I really do like him.
How about Cole Olson?
Cole. I think he's just one of those guys that he's just dedicated. That's really all I can say. I think it's just one of those. I struggle to keep up with him in some workouts, and he just goes and goes and goes, and he just doesn't think about it. And it's crazy.
All right. How about Mike Collins?
Mike, he's I would say he's stern in a good way. I think he doesn't show a lot, a ton of compassion or whatever, but I think he believes in his athletes, and I think he wants us to do well. And, one of the conversations that I had with him not too long ago, he just kind of surprised me with what he was saying. He was, saying things that he thinks that, I could continue on running after college. And that's something that and he doesn't always say those things, and he's a, pretty straight faced guy most of the time, but he's a good guy.
All right. Just because she had asked the question, how about Alicia?
I like Alicia. No, it was a good time, interning with her. I think she, kind of worries a little bit, but she's good. No, I really, really enjoyed interning for her. It was a lot of fun. I had lots of projects, kind of got into the world of graphic design just a little bit more, and I think she really did a good job of helping me with that.
All right. And the last one, and it's always the toughest one, but Clayton Van Dyke.
That was a tough one. It's always hard to ask anybody about themselves.
Not too long, or when I graduated from CSI, I had an amazing coach there. She was amazing. And at the end of the year, she gave us this keychain. Each athlete got a keychain with a different word. And the word that she gave me was irreplaceable. And, that kind of was one of those things that kind of really hit me, and so every time somebody asks me that question, it's like, I always go back to that. I always want to be that person that, I want to be that athlete on that team that surprises that coach, at every meet, And so, I think that's, probably the best way that I'm a unique person. And I really do think that I would be considered irreplaceable.
Hey, absolutely keep that confidence. Again, track and field will be in LeGrand, Oregon for the Cascade Conference Championships on Friday and Saturday. Wish you the best of luck there. And of course, next year we're going to have you on.
Exactly.
Because you're going to be on every event ever. We said it earlier in the show, ever since cross country first started, I think we've said your name every single show.
Really?
Just because of you finished high in every event you've been in. And again, because of everything being jumbled together, you've done something every single week. So we're very excited to see what happens for you this week, and then of course Nationals the week after. So thank you so much for hanging out with us, and I wish you the best of luck next week.
Thank you for having me.
All right, that's Clayton Van Dyke. He is the LCSC track and field runner. Good luck to him in LeGrand, and thanks for joining us tonight. Always great to have these athletes, and they're so humble with what they do and how they run, and I love what he said there a minute ago, and that was what he was doing for those kids coming up, what he was doing for those freshmen to throw out a word to build their game. I mean, that's something that, I always ask my 8th graders to do for my 7th grade football team, but, it just seems a little bit deeper right there, with dealing. You've got the face of the track and field with you right now. How do I build this program? And I love the idea. He's going to be back next year.
Yeah.
5th year. So I'm excited.
I just love his style, how he's confident but not cocky about it.
Exactly.
Like, he wants to be the best, but he's going to put in the work to do it. He's not, I am the best. I want to be the best. And I will do what I have to be to prove that I am the best. Yeah. It's a great mindset to have for sure.
Yeah, great job. Let's jump into some high school sports. Oh, I guess we should probably do our ID and what the weather is outside, since we haven't done that yet tonight. So
thank you for making me look over here, because it is trying to do another update, which messed up the show last time. But you are listening to the R&R Sports Report right here on KLCZ 88.9 FM Lewiston. It's currently 67 degrees outside, and don't forget, this is the last live show here in studio for the school year. We'll be back when school starts in the fall, but we will not be missing any shows. We will still be here Tuesday nights, 6 to 8 p.m. Pacific time on the R&R Sportsbook Facebook and YouTube pages. And maybe I'll get frisky and add a Twitch channel for us. Who knows? We'll have some fun with it. With the summer shows, it'll get really interesting, because it'll all be online, so we can start having some extra guests on, as Eric was on for the draft live reactions that we had, so we can get him on here. We can get some W2M guys on here. Maybe it'll be easier to get Gino and Joel to call in. We'll have lots of fun during the summer. Unfortunately, a lot less local stuff to talk about. We'll have some Legion ball to be able to talk about.
A little bit of Legion,
So we'll have some fun.
All right, well, we're going to get into the high school stuff that we know that's going on right after this score update. Your Seattle Mariners up 1-0 on the Dodgers off a Mitch Haniger home run to center field, so M's up 1-0 over the Dodgers.
You're forgetting the major update. Yankees went 3-1.
No, I didn't want to put that in for Eric. Didn't want to. Hey, Clarkson baseball was in action tonight. They had senior night, kind of a rough season this so far. Bantams were 2-8 prior to tonight's game. They had lost their last 4, and they got blanked at Pullman, who comes away with the GSL 2A title for baseball this year. They end up losing 11-0 and 10-0 to Pullman on Saturday. So tough game there. But the seniors were playing tonight, and Bantams playing tonight for senior night against Shadle Park. You got to go.
Yeah, I went and was able to watch 2 innings before I came and started doing prep for this show. Obviously, a good buddy of ours, Malcolm Lyons, his son is a senior left-handed pitcher and first baseman. Ethan Lyons. Got to watch Ethan come out, bases loaded, nobody out, and hit a hard line drive right to the second baseman for a double play. Just shows you how unlucky baseball can be sometimes. He did everything he was supposed to do, and then it just didn't work out his way. The Bantams do lose that game Thank you to Malcolm for giving me the update. 11-5. But good luck to Ethan as he has made the Legion team.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch a little bit of that this year. So congratulations to Ethan. We turn our attention to Soton Panthers baseball. They are now 6-5 on the season. Have won 6 of their last 7 as they had a rough start. We had Coach Jim Holman in there. He says, we're just young. We're young. And now he has turned it around as they won a doubleheader against Reardon on Saturday, 12-7, and then game 2, 11-2. They did have action today at 4:00. Still no update on that one as they were taking on Reardon here at home. But there is a game going to be happening for them for kind of like a district play with all these Washington schools. They're not having the state championships and all that. But Reardon, we'll know that one probably after tonight's game where that will happen. We'll post that on our Facebook page. Let's turn our attention to Lewiston baseball, and Lewiston baseball has been just crazy this year, and they needed a sweep this weekend against Post Falls to capture the number 1 seed for the Inland Empire 5A, and they come up just short. They ended up splitting against Post Falls. They won big against in game 1, 14-10, 3 lead changes, and they had an 8-run first inning, a 4-run 6th inning, 3 lead changes in that game, and Lewiston led 8-2 after the first inning, and then eventually trailed 9-8. So that tells you how much offense. And you talked with Coach Steele, and he just said that the way that they've been playing, they have a hot inning, and then all of a sudden it's just like nothing, no offense, no nothing for the next 3 or 4, sometimes the game. And this one was this nothing different. I mean, come out firing first inning, and then all of a sudden second, third, fourth, and fifth, there's just nothing there at all. And especially in game 2, as they lose to Post Falls in game 2, 4-0, they go up against C.D. Sharples, who will probably be the pitcher of the year for the 5A in that division, as they held Lewiston to 1 hit, and that was to Christopher Card, and that was in the 6th inning. Sharples has ended up giving up just 4 walks, the 1 hit, struck out 10, 2 ground balls, and the rest were all flyouts. So it was a tough one there. They lost last night. It was a play-in game to start the tournament, and lost last night to Coeur d'Alene 5-3. And now the Bengals have to win all the next 3 to make it to the state tournament, and just to make it into the round of 8. And when we heard earlier, just prior to game, maybe 5 minutes prior to game time, the Bengals were down 9-1 at the top of the 5th. So hopefully they were looking for a spark there. We look at softball for the Bengals. Taryn Barney wins game 1 today in extra innings with a walk-off home run. And they had won 7 games prior in a row and doing good. They do end up losing, as we looked there earlier. They do end up coming up short in game 2, 4-3 to Post Falls. So it'll be interesting to see how things turn out with that one. We still have not seen an update for the baseball one, but they were taking on Lake City, and Lake City was 4-15 on the season. So it'll be interesting how that goes. Clarkson softball is wrapping up their play. They ended up the season 5-7 on the season, and they ended up splitting a game on Saturday or last Wednesday against Pullman, 9-1, and then lose 14-4. So tomorrow, plan on. I'm gonna try to. I don't know if I'm gonna try to live stream it while I'm there or just take pictures or what. But we have our mass signing at CHS tomorrow. They'll kick things off about 9:15ish. I'll be there. A lot of athletes. Some of them we've already talked about, but we'll refresh here really quick. Ashlyn Wallace is going to be signing with Idaho to play basketball. Jenna Allen will be playing soccer at North Idaho. Samantha Chatfield will be joining her brother over at University of Puget Sound, as we did talk about Brandon transferring over there to Puget Sound. Alyssa Sangster is going to be playing volleyball for Pierce College. Maddie Biddle will be going to Idaho and doing cheer. Eddie Berglund and Dawson Packwood both signing with College of Idaho for football. Wyatt Chatfield, another one of the Chatfields, is going to be going to Spokane Community College with basketball, and we'll see that signing. But the biggest one that I'm so proud of this kid. I love Dre. Drayson Schubert is going to be signing. He signed his letter of intent yesterday, but they're going to do a big thing. He is going to Lee University, who is huge for baseball, but he's going to play rugby. I am so jacked. He's going to go play rugby, something he's not used to playing. I mean, he plays football,
right?
O-line, D-line for Bantam. So I'm excited to see how things turn out in Lee, and I'm excited to follow that one.
So what you need to do, and obviously you have plenty of time to prepare before tomorrow morning.
Sure.
Set up a table next to all of that.
There you go.
And stream live, and then have these kids come over and interview them after they do their sign.
I should. We got to figure something out.
Put it all on there.
Put it down there, get it out. Yeah,
that's very, very cool. I'm very excited for all of them.
So excited for all those. We'll try to get see if I can figure that out and try to get them streaming and get them going and chatting. So lots of things happening here in as it's starting to wind down. Basketball, we just started talking about Washington basketball, and they started practice yesterday. First game is supposed to have been the 18th. I hear that is already going to be backed up for a week due to some COVID stuff with Rogers. And so it'll be interesting to get basketball in the way. The only thing that scares me, like we talked about, Pullman now in phase 2, Spokane schools back in phase 2, how that's going to look for us. But we will find out. We will see.
That's just how it works right now. All right, let's move on to some NFL news. Lighter news time here, but that's okay because we have a back show all the time.
We just love talking baseball, and as much baseball as we've talked lately.
Speaking of baseball star Tim Tebow.
Wait a minute. You thought he was a star in baseball?
He was on my minor league team on MLB The Show last year.
How did he do?
No, he's on the minor league team. I didn't play. But he was there. He had a picture on MLB The Show and everything. But he's going to be a tight end for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Will he make the team?
They say that he's going to sign him on.
Yeah, they'll sign him. That's fine. But he'll make the roster week 1?
We're talking 90 teams down to, or 90 guys down 53. To 54, 53. I don't think he makes it, but yeah, prove me wrong, Tim Tebow. Prove me wrong.
I love everyone getting all upset about, oh my God, Tebow's getting another chance. Why not? Who cares?
Why not? Exactly. Why not? It's the same thing as, like I sent you the post today. We talked a little bit about Tim Tebow. Now, Colin Kaepernick. Why hasn't Colin Kaepernick?
Yeah. Why is Tebow getting a job than Colin Kaepernick? Well, if Colin Kaepernick wants to sign as a wide receiver somewhere.
Yeah, when you said that, I was like, yeah, make him run.
Tebow should have done this a long time ago.
How many guys, if that was to happen, how many guys would have a target out to hit Colin Kaepernick?
There's many that probably have a target on Tim Tebow, let's be honest. Really cool news, even though the way you look at it is different. DK Metcalf ran in the Olympic trial, the 100 meters, and ran a 10.37, which is ridiculous. Unfortunately, he does finish last, but if you watch that race, not only is he twice as big as every other runner there, he was neck and neck with all of the other 8 competitors. Yeah. I know a lot of people were going off about, this is why NFL players need to be quiet about how fast they are. He did very little training for this.
And dude, he stands like 6 inches taller than you and is about 40 pounds heavier than every one of the guys that ran.
Yeah, it was a really cool thing to see. Obviously, stuff like this will bring more eyes to that sport, which I'm meant to bring up when Clayton was here, but forgot. But I'm sure they're looking for anything like that. And again, he did not embarrass himself.
No, not at all. How about what's your feelings on all this Aaron Rodgers saga?
I don't care anymore. Now the rumors are they're going to give him a contract that will give him more money per year than Patrick Mahomes.
It's crazy. Crazy.
This has only been going on for 2 weeks, and I don't care anymore.
I think the best part about it is how quiet he's been about it. He hasn't said a word. And who's bringing it up? People like us.
Yeah. Well, because of that one leak that may have not have been a leak that Adam Schefter did on draft day, which obviously was not an accident. And that's all we can talk about now.
Yeah. And now that's been 2 weeks in a row now.
Until the Buffalo Bills GM, Brandon Beane, was on One Bills Live on Wednesday and was asked about the different COVID restrictions and how sports are now is once you get such a percentage vaccinated, you'll get restrictions loosened, which is why you'll see some MLB teams have to wear masks in the dugout and other teams don't because they have so many of their players vaccinated. Brandon Beane on that radio show said that he would cut a player who is not vaccinated if the team was one player away from reaching that undetermined percentage of getting looser restrictions. He said that they were joking around, but also said that meetings last year were not as productive, and going back to the old way meetings were done would be a big advantage, which I agree with. But the NFL did call Beane and say you are not allowed to cut a player solely because he's not vaccinated, which of course makes 100% sense.
Oh, yeah.
That just seems like legal issue central. However, I have to ask you, what do you feel about his thoughts of having those looser restrictions being such an advantage?
We get back to something normal. But here's the thing. How many of us, we keep talking about the same idea. What is normal ever going to be? Some of these people don't want to do it, and I understand the reasoning behind it, but you can't tell somebody they'd have to do something. Right. And so I think that's where we're at. Did I get a good chuckle out of it? Yeah, because I sent you the tweet, and I'm like, this is hilarious. I mean, but I just can't see an owner being able to put that much pressure on a player to have to get a vaccine. I just don't see it happening.
It's interesting.
Oh, it's interesting.
And I 100% get his point that he wants to be able to get to those looser restrictions. Obviously, you can't make a player get the vaccine, but he's going to strongly suggest that all of the Buffalo Bills get the vaccine. However, I will say what I've learned over the last year plus, if you want an adult to act like a child, just tell them what to do.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
lose their mind.
I even had students today ask me, how do you feel about school coming back and everybody having to be vaccinated? When do you think it's going to be over? And this is a 7th grader asking me this. And I'm like, I don't think it is ever going to be back to what we think as normal.
Right.
I mean, but it's just a matter of time to figure out, well, how long do these vaccines last?
And honestly, we're not going to get into this fully.
No.
But I do have to say, going back to normal both has positives and negatives. I think there's a lot of positives that have come out of all of this COVID stuff as far as ways businesses have found ways around things. Obviously, you can work from home a little bit easier, which will save down on travel, which works great with all the gas prices going crazy. You can take your classes on Zoom now, which I have done all year long, and maybe that will stick around.
Well, I mean, even part of my job.
You're not worried about, I have the flu, but if I miss this class, I'm in trouble. You can hop on Zoom. So it'll be really interesting. However, you do kind of rely on it after a little bit, and then you get a little lazy. But that's neither here nor there. Let's move now. The NFL schedule releases tomorrow.
Let's start with our teams before we do days.
One of our favorite days, mostly because of the bowling league that we run, because this is when we can start setting up our schedule and getting that all set up.
I'm excited.
And now, so everyone gets to look through all of the schedules and figure out what games are going to win and which games are going to lose. And this is where people will start coming out with their predictions for win-loss records, and it'll be really interesting, and or making travel plans. I already made the mistake. I was looking for, because we're going to predict who our teams are going to play week 1, who the Seahawks are going to play week 1, and then the Thursday night, Sunday night, and Monday night game. That's what we're going to do in a second. But I was looking up New York Jets opponents, and I accidentally clicked on 2022 and realized the Jets go to Lambeau Field next year. My girlfriend is a huge Packers fan, has always wanted to go to Lambeau Field. So that might be a vacation next year.
I know a few people that have season tickets for that. Maybe I have to score you a couple tickets.
I might need the help.
You need a little. wager in there. All right, let's start with your New York Jets. Who are their opening week one?
I've said this almost since the end of the regular season when it was set. The draft order was set, and it became even well. Justin Fields, when he was looking to be like he was going to be the number 2 pick, I think it would have been even more likely. But I believe it will be the number 1 pick, Trevor Lawrence, versus the number 2 pick, Zach Wilson. And so Jacksonville Jaguars will go to New York to play the Jets week 1.
I like it. It's a good idea. I think the only thing I'm going to do, I'm going to stay divisional and going against. And I'm going to say New York's on the road, but they're going to go to Foxborough. And yes, I have the same opinion, but it's going to be
Mac Jones.
Mac Jones.
You think Jones starts
I
week
think
1?
I think Cam does something, tweaks something, doesn't get to play, and he will not play week 1. Mac Jones takes the job right away, and it'd be Wilson versus Mac Jones.
I just don't
It'll be
see
interesting.
that. I just don't see that. It'll be interesting for sure. All right. How about your Baltimore Ravens?
It's all. I love this divisional thing. I think last year we started with Cleveland, we started with Cleveland this last year. I believe Baltimore will be on the road, and they're going to go into the Steel City. We're going to Pittsburgh.
It's interesting because I have the exact same matchup, but just flipped.
Going to Baltimore?
I'll say the game is in Pittsburgh. Or is that what you said?
No, that's what I said.
Well, that's not what you have on the sheet.
Oh, I guess
flipped.
it was at home. I guess so. Yeah,
Nope.
I thought it was at home.
Nope.
Yeah.
Now you're stuck with me.
Okay.
I just know our sheet was flipped.
Flipped it. Yep.
I think we both say Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I think it's in Pittsburgh.
There you go. So we both believe Baltimore at Pittsburgh. How about the Seattle Seahawks? Now I had to flip mine because I thought they were going to play at home. But then I looked, and the Seattle Sounders play the Saturday of week 1. So I don't think they will play when the Sounders are playing the day before. I think they're going to want that whole weekend build up for their first home game. And it's not a sexy game, but you cannot have 16 amazing games week 1. Because you're going to, you're looking at all these key matchups that everyone wants to see. Tampa Bay and Kansas City, or Tampa Bay and New England.
Right.
And Seattle and any divisional.
You just want to see Wilson cook. That's what it is. It bottoms out. And looking at this.
And this is maybe why he cooks at the beginning of the season and not after. But Washington has a good team, and that's why it'll be the Seattle Seahawks traveling to the Washington football team on week 1. That would be my guess.
I think they're also on the road, but I think they're just heading down south to Levi Stadium. They're going to take on the 49ers. Give them a division matchup right away. And it will probably be the game of the afternoon on Sunday.
It makes sense. I can definitely see that too. All right, let's get into the key prime time games. And again, from what I saw when I was doing all the prep work today, there's only one Monday night football game in week 1, which will be the first time since 2006 that has happened. I'm curious why, other than maybe ESPN just doesn't have enough play-by-play people because they keep cutting everybody.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Monday night. Is that where we're going? Monday night?
Let's go Thursday night.
Thursday night. I'm going to stay with it. I think your Jets are going to have right out. Let's do it. I want to see a number 2 guy. I want to see 2 good quarterbacks, and I'm pulling for Robert Saleh. I really want to see how he coaches this team this year.
Absolutely, it's not going to happen. I mean, could they play week 1? Possible. Will it be on a prime time? Possible.
Not
less possible. Will it be Thursday night? 0.00%.
Yeah.
That will happen because it has been tradition that the defending Super Bowl champion gets to host the first game of the year. The only time that's happened in recent memory was New England 2 years ago, but that excuse was it was the anniversary between the Chicago Bears and Green Bay Packers. So Chicago and Green Bay had the Thursday night game, and then New England had the Sunday night game. I don't think there's any of that going on this year, so it will be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers hosting the Dallas Cowboys. Why? Ratings.
Dak versus Tom. Huh?
Returning Dak versus Tampa Bay. Obviously, Dallas always pulls the ratings. All the Cowboys fans thinking this is the year. Tampa Bay bringing back all 22 starters from last year.
Are you trying to crush the spirits of our Dallas Cowboy fans?
I-
That's what I want to know.
I think Dallas will be okay.
They need another weapon. They need another weapon.
Oh, there, Eric makes sense. ESPN's deal is for 17 Monday Night Football games, and now there's 18 weeks.
Good point.
And they obviously don't have Monday Night Football the last week, but just kind of
Makes sense. Yeah, makes sense. How about Sunday night? Sunday night's interesting.
Sunday night was interesting until I saw a leak, which I'm going to believe, and I will predict just so I can be right, hopefully, the Chicago Bears at the Los Angeles Rams. And I think I would have put, if I thought about it long enough, I might have put the Rams in the spot anyways, because SoFi Stadium opened last year. But when it opened, there were no fans.
Exactly.
So now, with restrictions opening or loosening, and now you can get those fans, they're going to want SoFi Stadium to kind of have that grand opening moment with the fans on prime time. I wouldn't have probably picked the Chicago Bears, but again, I've seen the leak, and that's where I'm going with it.
Yeah, and guess what? I think I saw the same one off DraftKings. I think it was on DraftKings. I read that article, and it was Chicago against LA. Same kind of feeling, but it's kind of the same idea. It's the Matthew Stafford taking on, his old team, his rival. Yeah, which one is it going to be? So, I'm hearing the same thing. So Chicago, LA. So,
all right, how about your Monday night game?
This is where I put Tampa Tom. But I have him going against Jameis Winston and the New Orleans Saints.
I think that's the other opponent that makes sense on Thursday night.
Oh,
it's Tampa and New Orleans, obviously division rivals.
Right.
And Winston possibly starting for New Orleans and a return to Tampa Bay. That would make sense too. I think Tampa Bay will be hosting Thursday night. It'll be either against Dallas or New Orleans. I don't hate your matchup. I just hate your position.
Yeah.
My Monday night game, and obviously it gets changed because there's not two, but usually the second Monday night game is a West Coast game. So I stuck with that. And for the exact same reason why the Los Angeles Rams are getting Sunday night, I think the Las Vegas Raiders are going to get Monday night. Again, they made it to Las Vegas last year. Couldn't have any fans in the stands to start that season. They're going to want that big build-up here on Monday night. Make it a division game. Los Angeles Chargers at the Las Vegas Raiders would be my prediction.
That's a good one too. Another great new stadium. Let Vegas shine a little bit. Give a little glamour.
Yeah.
Cheese it up a little bit. You got to do something.
All right, let's move on to the sports that don't get enough airtime, and let's start with Aussie rules football.
I didn't wear mine.
You did not. You've lost fandom. My Hawthorne Hawks have forgotten the season is still going on. I had come up here after their big upset win a couple weeks ago, how they could run the table until their bye week, and then they got beat by a really crappy team last week. And now they play West Coast, who's a good team.
Yeah, they've been looking extremely well.
And that first quarter was so hard to watch.
Mm-hmm.
They combined for 0 goals the first quarter.
Just zero? Is that
Just
it?
0. And then Hawthorne continued to struggle offensively. West Coast went nuts. West Coast wins that game 98-60. Melbourne stays undefeated in a low-scoring win over Sydney 67-58. GWS had a really fun game with Essendon, survived a late run there. They win that one 107-105. And your Geelong Cats continue to start getting more and more red hot. This is why I had them in my top 4. As they crush Richmond in the second half, win that one 126-63.
Yeah, they've been playing quite well, and I think the big one was they were trailing by 9 going into the half. By 9, but then all of a sudden they score 53 in the third, and they ended up holding the team. What was it? 14 points.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
14
so it's just crazy, and I'm loving it. And the wife has been sitting and watching a little bit, and
that is what we're trying to do here is introduce the sport of Aussie rules to the world with the help of Eric Watkins. Next week on TV, again, thank you, Fox, for finally figuring this out. You get a game on FS1 this week. Hopefully you have a DVR, but you get a game.
Yep.
Saturday at 2 a.m. All of these times will be Pacific time.
I wish I could get up and watch this one, but I have meetings on Saturday morning, so
DVR, watch it later. Saturday at 2 a.m. you get Richmond versus GWS. I think that's going to be a fantastic game. Set your DVR. FS2 has 3 games this week. Friday at 8:30 p.m. it's Sydney versus Collingwood. And then right after that at 11:30 you get Gold Coast versus Brisbane. And Saturday at 11:30 you get West Coast versus Adelaide. And on Fox Soccer Plus, on Friday at 8 p.m. you get Essendon versus Fremantle. And then the game of the week, Friday at 9 p.m., last place North Melbourne will host second to last place Hawthorn. So there you go. If you want to watch the Hawthorn Hawks, hopefully get a win, or North Melbourne get their first win, you can watch that on Fox Sports Plus Friday at 9.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch it, and it's been nice to actually sit there and watch it unfold. That's a big one. So, how about Rory? Rory looked really good this weekend.
This has been a very interesting year. Jordan Spieth has been struggling getting wins. Gets a win a couple weeks ago. Rory McIlroy, same thing, kind of falling off the map a little bit.
DeChambeau
coming back to Quail Hollow Club, winning for the 3rd time there. He goes 10 under, beats Abram Answer by a shot. So that was really cool to see. It's the first time ever he's won an event 3 times. He brought up Bryson DeChambeau. I loved his interview. But he still finishes tied for 9th, even though he got on a plane and left on Friday, telling everybody there's 0 chance I make the cut. They land, and he realized he was tied for 63rd, I think, and realized he made the cut. So Saturday morning, he gets on a plane, lands at what did he say in the interview? 4 or 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning, drives just right over to the golf club or the golf course, goes into the dressing room, gets dressed, goes right out to the putting green. Never went to a hotel, nothing.
It makes you wonder, did he take his golf clubs with him, or did they leave him? So did he buy a seat for his clubs next to him? I wouldn't want to put my chances of not having my clubs with me. Would you like to check your bag, sir?
Right.
No, I got to go play in a golf tournament.
Next time we have Gino on, we'll have to ask him about
crazy.
The golf club etiquette as far as travel goes. It was really cool to see the Twitter between Joel Damon and Phil Mickelson, as Joel was really excited to just the first time ever he was able to play with Phil Mickelson in a group. And he got to play Thursday and Friday. They both played pretty well on Thursday. Joel, was 2 under?
2 under.
Through the first day. Phil was leading the tournament after day 1. Unfortunately, Phil really struggled afterwards, shooting 75, 76, and 76. He finished 7 over par.
But if you have a chance to go to Joel's Twitter page, and the funny between the both is he kind of took a stab at Phil and said, haha, you didn't do anything. You didn't show up the next 3 days.
Yeah, Phil did say that at least for one day he was teaching lessons.
Right.
But Joel had a decent rest of the week. Again, he was 2 under through the first round, finishes 1 under on the tournament. That course got really hard on Friday with how crazy that wind was. He does finish tied for 18th, and he is currently 63rd in the FedEx points as of right now, which would get him to the semifinals. I think top 70 make the semifinal tournament, and then top 30 make the PGA Championship or whatever, the FedEx Cup Championship, whatever that's called.
Yeah, I think so.
Next tournament is the AT&T Byron Nelson at the TPC at Craig Ranch in McKinney, Texas, and it does not look like Joe will make that tournament. The tee time's already up, and his name was not on there.
Yeah.
PBA playoffs, you're down to 4 as Kyle Troop defeated Thomas Larson 2-0. Francois Lavoie versus Bill O'Neill, which was the matchup I really wanted to watch, was very, very good. He wins in a roll-off 46-40. And then you had the upsets. Christian Escona defeats EJ Tackett 49-47 in a roll-off. And Sam Cooley beat Tom Doherty 37-26 in their roll-off. So Saturday you get 2 completely different matchups.
Yeah.
And this will be sadly at 8 a.m. Thanks, Fox. I was just praising them, but thanks a lot for 8 a.m. for this. But the 1 seed Kyle Troop will take on the 4 seed Francois Lavoie. And then you have the 11 seed Sam Cooley versus the 15 seed Christian Escona. And then Sunday at 11 a.m., on Fox will be the finals. Who do you have out of those four?
I still like Troop. I just love the way he's playing this year. Take nothing away from Francois. He can pull the win. I wouldn't call it an upset because those two guys are unbelievable bowlers. Now
it would be an upset if either one of those lost on Sunday.
Right, and I agree with that. Yes, so I'm still going to go with Troop, but just like his mentality right now.
I like that pick. I don't think he's lost a game yet.
No, I don't think so either.
Tournament, but I'll take Francois Lavoie just because he's one of my favorite bowlers to watch.
You just like to say his name.
Got to, but just the way he bowls, I would love to emulate his style. I can't get that backswing like he can, but just how smooth he is just so fun to watch. The NASCAR race was fun, even though it was dominated by Martin Truex Jr. He leads 248 of the 293 laps in Darlington. It's his third win this season, 30th all time, and he's still the only driver to win multiple races this year.
I love, yeah, somebody out there going to play some music as I'm like dropping that thing. No, the one thing I love about Darlington is how close they race to the wall. That is the biggest thing. And to watch how close Truex and the guys were getting up to the wall, it was nuts.
And not just that, but you could tell that the drivers actually had to drive their race cars.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle Busch at one point basically got a flat tire because his car was so loose. Like, how many times do you see like Ryan Newman come off of the corner sideways and having to save it? So they had to work.
Yeah, there was lots.
Every single one of those 293 laps. Next week's another fun one at Dover in the Dryden 400, a concrete course, which adds a lot of speed to that place. Fantastic.
That race name is not as fun as the
Bushy McBushy. Let's just let the fans name every race.
Yeah,
I think that'll be a great thing for NASCAR. They showed the next gen cars off either last week or the week before. They look really cool.
Didn't it used to be the Goodies 400? Wasn't Dover the Goodies 400? I don't remember. I'm gonna have to go back and look in the Winston Cup days, but
Goodies, I believe, is Bristol.
But remember, Goodie? Do they still make Goodies? If anybody hasn't remember what Goodies are, Goodies was the powdered aspirin that was sponsored. That was, I think that I could have swore it was the Goodies 500 or 400 was Dover, but it's been many years, so many years ago.
Oh, Goodies 500 is Martinsville. I knew it was a short track.
So interesting. All right, well, we'll talk just a little bit about horse racing.
By the way, that race is now the Blue Emo Maximum Relief.
That was the one that happened 2 weeks
ago.
Yeah. It still doesn't beat Bushy McBush, the race there. So
I don't know if Eric just asked that before or after I said that, but I like the next gen cars. They look really cool.
Yeah, they did.
I'm hoping it adds more interesting races. I think this generation of cars on the 1.5-mile tracks just has been so boring. It's impossible to pass.
Mm-hmm.
You get it behind that downforce, and it's really rough. So they look really cool, and I hope they add something to the racing for sure.
It'll be interesting to see. We'll keep this one short and sweet as there's still lots of things out right now. Horse racing, Kentucky Derby winner Medina Spirit fails a post-race drug
It even
test.
happens in horse racing.
It happens in horse racing. Hall of Fame trainer Bob Baffert denies any wrongdoing and is suspended. But what the biggest part is his horses have failed 5 tests in over a year. So some of his horses have failed tests.
Yes.
Makes me wonder. And the thing they're finding is a very, very minuscule amount of this betamethasone, I think is what it's called. It's a corticosteroid injection. So, how is listening to Dan Patrick this morning?
It's a pain relief thing that has a little bit of a steroid in it.
Yeah, listening to Dan Patrick talk about that today was just priceless of how much was in there and why you don't have enough cameras watching over these people.
Who had more horse steroids in their system? Medina Spirit or Barry Bonds?
That's a no-brainer. That's easy.
Yeah, Barry Bonds.
Yeah, Barry Bonds all day long.
It'll be interesting to see what happens here. Obviously, if they find wrongdoing, Bob Baffert should never be a part of racing again. If this is now his 5th failed test in a year, he's had so many chances. But again, if it's a pain relief thing, it's what we talk about with major league athletes. Know what you're putting in your body
exactly
before you do. But I don't know. It'd be really interesting.
I even hate taking pain medicine. I mean, as much as some of the stuff that I take for regularly, I mean, I just hate taking any kind of pain medicine. So
All right, you got 3 minutes, sir, for this week in sports history.
All right, we're going to kick things off with one of the oldest ones and one of the best ones. You know, we're about history. Cy Young in 1904 pitches the first perfect game in modern baseball era as the Boston Americans beat the Philadelphia Athletics 3-0. 1915, Hall of Famer Babe Ruth hits his first home run, and he also pitches 12 innings in that game as the Boston Red Sox, which Babe Ruth was on, wins 4-3 in extra innings over the team he gets traded to, the New York Yankees. 1925, Pittsburgh Pirates shortstop Glenn Wright makes an unassisted triple play. Well, how did it happen? Well, it was the ninth inning. He caught a liner, touched second, and tagged the runner going to first. It's the fifth time that has happened in MLB history. But now, that was the fifth time it happened, but it is now 15th all time. 1926, the big fire, one of the big fires in Fenway breaks out. How do you think those happened? As many, they're all on wooden benches and wooden bleachers, and it's crazy.
I'm sure they're allowed to smoke there too.
Probably. 1963, one of my favorite pitchers of all time, Sandy Koufax, throws his second career no-hitter against Juan Marichal and the San Francisco Giants, 8-0. 1969, the Milwaukee Bucks sign number one draft pick, UCLA center Lou Alcindor, or better known as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. 1978, Cincinnati Red Pete Rose becomes 14th player to hit 3,000. And then just a couple years later, he steals second, third, and home in one inning when he was playing in 1980 against the Phillies. 1982, Seattle Mariner Gaylord Perry becomes the 15th pitchers to win 300 games. We always got to talk about Cal Ripken when he comes up. So in 1984, Cal Ripken hits for the cycle, and it has hit. The cycle has now happened 330 times in Major League Baseball. Kevin Biggio was the last player to do so in September 17th, 2019.
One more.
Let's see. Any, mini, miny, mo. Well, how about we just do it? 2018, Seattle Mariners MLB left-hander James Paxton hurls his no-hitter, winning 5-0 over the Toronto Blue Jays.
Get well soon, James Paxton.
Yeah,
all
no
right.
kidding.
Trivia
No
time.
kidding. All right, again, A, B, or C.
I think I went B last time and I failed. So let's go A.
A, and this was the first one that came out. Who has hit for the most cycles? We talked about hitting for the cycle, Cal Ripken. Who has hit for the most cycles? Well, first of all, let's do it the easier way. I'm going to do it in a two-part question.
Okay.
How many people total have there been, and how many games have they hit for the cycle?
Oh, God. That I don't know. What did you just say? 400 and something?
330.
330 games have happened.
Right. So
I'm going to go old school on a total guess and say Stan Musial.
No. So there has been 4 people that have hit the cycle 3 times. 4 people 3 times. And the one that really got me, and I didn't know, and a couple of them were all sub 1930. John Riley of Cincinnati in 1883, and then less than 7 days later did it again. And then in 1890, he also did it. Bob Musial hit it in 1921 and 22 and 28.
So I get half credit, I guess?
I guess it's got to be some kind of relation, maybe. Babe Herman, he does it in twice in the same year, 1931, playing for Brooklyn, and then he did it again as a Chicago Cub in 1933. But the last one to do it was just only a few years ago, 6 years ago. Adrian Beltre.
No way.
2008.
He has 3 triples in his career?
Yeah, he's hit for the cycle 3 times. In 2008 with the Seattle Mariners, in 2012 with the Rangers, and 2015 also with the Rangers.
That's crazy. That one blows my mind. All right, that will do it for another episode of the R&R Sports Report. And one last reminder, this is our last in-studio show of the college year. We'll be back in the fall. However, we're not going to miss any Tuesdays. We will be on the R&R Sports Report Facebook and YouTube pages every Tuesday from 6 to 8 p.m. Pacific time. So please remember to come join us there. Have fun with us. Again, thank you, Eric, for hanging out with us the whole show. Thank you, Alicia, for hanging out for the interview. Thank you, Clayton Van Dyke, for being our last in-studio guest of the college year. For Robert, I'm Randy. We've had a very fun show. 32 of them here, and now we're going to get into the summer where we're going to talk some weirdness.
Yeah.
And once local sports get done, we're going to come up with some goofy topics to talk about.
The sad thing is I'm going to have to teach my parents how to watch this online instead of listening on the radio. We'll do that this week.
They all have to get there, but
Eventually.
for now, and we're out.